Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I review 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at The Few and Curse from Rock Manor Games. Disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this game. It's a deck builder with a Weird West theme, but is the solo and co-op play any good? Let's find out and get to the list. I'm starting out with a pro for my number 5, and that's the encounters that you have at the beginning of each of your turns after you improvise. If you're outside of town, you draw a card that has a little narrative story and usually offers you a choice using some of your resources, and I like that, just injecting the theme a little bit and giving you ways to earn resources and victory points in a different way. And when you're in town, instead of having an encounter, you can instead go to the store, which offers fun little upgrade options, so either way, it's pretty cool. My number 4 is also a pro, my single favorite mechanic in the game, and that's improvising. So as I said, this is a deck builder, but unlike most deck builders, you don't have to save up and buy new cards. Instead, at the start of every turn, you draw 2 cards from the top of the deck and decide which one you want to add to your hand immediately. And I love this consistency and upgrading. I like that you have the card right away, so you can kind of hedge your bets and make sure it matches what you need in the current moment. I just like systems like this in general. Like Renegade was another one that made it very cheap to upgrade and do it consistently. Or Battle for Greyport had the coins that would let you upgrade every turn. I just think it's really cool when they take away kind of that economic side of things and let you get awesome as often as you can. And my next one is also a pro. That's 3 in a row, and that's the core card play mechanics in the game. So unlike a lot of deck builders, you don't have to play out your entire hand, which already gives you some cool choices. And a lot of it is sort of like Clank in that you're moving around a board with different icons and you can avoid damage. But they also have this cool mechanic in the card play and movement where you gain curse and can flip to this almost more powerful side that also has drawbacks, a curse version of yourself. And then also when you go through your whole deck, you have to either rest out in the open using up your action for a turn or teleport back to town. So there's lots of really cool choices. Now the combos aren't great. This is not a deck builder where you're going to build like this really cool engine, but just the basics of moving and attacking and avoiding curse and using your ammo is a lot of fun. But sadly, this is where the review takes a downward turn because my number 2 is a mix, and it's focused squarely on the cooperative variant in the game. On the positive side, the basics of co-op work pretty well. You've basically got a timer in the form of free victory points they start you with that you lose every turn, and you need to work together to defeat all of the most wanted villains in the land and eventually defeat 3 monsters. And anytime you gain victory points, you increase your life, basically, or give yourself more time to win the game. So it uses all the mechanics of the game in a pretty streamlined way and works pretty well. But on the negative side, it's a pretty swingy experience in that which villains are face up at the beginning of the game can drastically shorten your amount of time. And on the flip side of the coin, if you get the best items too quickly or defeat some of the monsters too easily, the end game can really slow down and lower the pacing to the point where it doesn't feel dangerous enough. But on top of that, co-op just feels a bit like a missed opportunity because there aren't really any cooperative elements in here besides dividing and conquering the enemies. You can't fight things together, you can't trade items to each other, you can't trade jobs to each other, so it really just feels like the competitive game with sort of a cooperative goal tacked onto it in a way. And speaking of things being tacked on, we get to my number 1, a full-on con, and that's the solo play in the game. There are 3 different solo scenarios you can play, and that might sound really nice at first in terms of variety, but all of them are in some way broken or very unbalanced. If you watch my playthrough video, you can see an example of this in action. And the biggest failure is that they took the grit mechanic, which is the core victory point mechanism in the game, which remember was basically your timer in co-op, and they stripped it away to become basically meaningless. It reminds me a lot of a Thunderstone Quest in its solo and co-op, where they took a majorly important part of the game for balance and variety and just stripped it away. So overall, as you can probably tell, The Few and Cursed was kind of a disappointment. I really like the core mechanics, at least for the competitive play. I think the way they do deck building and moving around the board and using your abilities is pretty cool, and I love the theme. But would I recommend the game for solo and cooperative play, the 2 things our channel focuses on? No, pretty much not, unless you're really willing to look into house rules and variants, especially to fix the solo, because right now it just doesn't really work. So maybe check this game out for competitive, but if you're not going to play it pretty frequently competitive, this is definitely a pass, at least for me. And hey, if you want to see some of the core problems with solo in action, click the link that just popped up. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.